And it looks like we're live. So hello, everybody. My name is Valerie Greene, and I am a relationship coach. And for those of you that don't know me, I help couples stop fighting and fall in love again. And I help women to inspire their partner to meet all their needs and desires. And I'm here with the Mission Mentor Nicola Grace, and we are going to be talking about how to live your life purpose, monetize your life purpose, and how that improves your relationships. I'm super excited. Before I introduce Nicola, I will tell you a little bit about her because she has some very exciting tools that we'll be teaching that we'll go into during this interview. So I'm super excited. So Nicola, and you do pronounce your name Nicola, right?
It's Nicola, and hi everybody.
Oh, Nicola. All right. Yeah. I'm so sorry about that, Nicola. Yeah.
No, you Americans often pronounce my name Nicola because you have Ricola.
Right, Ricola.
So you see the N, and you just go Nicola.
Right. Nicola, got it. So I'm so excited that you're here with us, Nicola. Thank you so much for joining us. And it is 8 o'clock on Wednesday night here in New York City, and it's 10 a.m. in Australian time. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep, it's mid-morning.
Yeah, so we have across the whole globe. It's so wonderful what technology can do for us nowadays. So Nicola is a mission mentor, and I'm so excited to talk to you more. And so basically, Nicola helps she helps social entrepreneurs clarify and monetize their mission so they can leave a legacy. And Nicola's intuitive visionary strategy skills have made her the secret weapon of politicians and business owners and social entrepreneurs, social innovators and thought leaders and an entire industry body. And so she can certainly help all of the people that are watching tonight to monetize their mission. And I'm so excited to just ask you tons of questions to find out how our viewers can get in touch with their passion, can use it in order to make a living, to enliven them on a daily basis, and to inspire their partner with that, to create a real true partnership that supports their life purpose, because I find that relationships just thrive. So I am so excited to be speaking with you, Nicola. Is there anything else that you would like to say to introduce yourself before we get started?
No, I think you said all the main bits. I'm also a best-selling author. I've written a book called Discover What You're Here to Do in Mission Mojo, which are all about how to discover and then monetize your mission to get out there and transform the world and play your part in making a big difference, leaving a legacy.
Yeah, and well said. And so I'm really excited to find out more about your journey, first of all. How did you end up being called as the Mission Mentor?
Well, it's a good question. It was a whole lot of different processes of just your life journey, going through your life journey and evaluating your life that led me to it. I mean, I started out my life as a secondary school teacher, teaching history, became a historian, and then decided to follow my passion because that was it was something I was interested in, but it wasn't my passion, and my passion was performing arts. So I was a performing artist for about 6 or 7 years. Oh. And then you can't do that forever. Back in those days, you get to a certain age and then all of a sudden the young people take over. So when I retired, I was floundering around for what I wanted to do. Here I am, feeling like I had a really big purpose, sensing that there was a big mission for me to do, but not knowing what it was. So I tried all sorts of different things. I worked in film and television for a while because I'm very creative and it just seemed like a natural thing. I ended up doing some corporate work. I've been an entrepreneur, like pretty much a serial entrepreneur for almost 3 decades now. And then it wasn't really until 2005 going into 2006 that everything all of a sudden just started to come together in my life. And this is when I worked with the natural health industry of New Zealand. I created a strategy for them that was to beat back government legislation that was going to close them down. But long story short, was a corporation that Australia and New Zealand were going to create that would be funded by and ran by pharmaceutical company type mentality to regulate the natural health industry. So I think we all know where that was going to go.
Right.
So we defeated that legislation. And during that time, everybody was saying, you're a woman on a mission. This is your mission. You know, here you are achieving your mission. You were the only person for this mission. So this idea of mission came into my mind. And then I started doing strategies, starting a business, doing strategies. I'm an intuitive visionary, which is just, it's a little bit more than a psychic. Like I get visions and I can mastermind looking at best pathways forward and so on. But I started doing that for clients. And I got people coming to me from all over the world because of where I was living. And all of a sudden, I just had this global business online of helping people really clarify their future pathways forward. And out of that, it evolved to wanting to start teaching more one-on-one stuff, going into workshops and what have you. So I started developing processes. So when I developed the DNA of self-discovery process, this is where everything just started flashing before my eyes, going, oh my goodness, my life's path is all about mentoring people who want to make a difference in the world. And that's how the Mission Mentor sort of came as a brand. But I was doing the work long before the brand arrived.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And it makes me curious about this DNA self-discovery process. How would you describe that?
It's a process that I take people through to methodically go through key areas of their life and drill down to find out what were the core values and the core motivations and drivers that were operating to make you think that way, feel that way, behave that way, achieve certain things in your life. Because what I'm finding with a lot of people is that quite often their purpose, their right direction is right in front of them, and it's even in their thought processes. But because of the way we're educated and because we have a lot of self-doubt, we can't join the dots, and we just need to have somebody else help us figure out what that is. But not only that, once you do know what it is, the connection needs to be there because people will often discount it. So the process, because it takes you deep down into your soul's motivation and your core values, you actually connect deeper with who you really are and what really drives you. And that connection starts to make you go, well, that just makes sense. I get that now. So you don't only begin to start to find, what your pathway forward is, what you should be leading with, but you also begin to have the connection with this is what you have to do. So you better be about doing it because it's where your fulfillment lies. It's where your sense of purpose is. And it's also where you do actually affect the greatest change.
Definitely. Yeah, I love the way you said that. It's like once you have an experience, a visceral in every cell of your body that you really experience what your mission is, then you can't go back, right? You have to be motivated by it. And it really helps to have somebody who does mentor you through that process because it can be easy to lose touch with it on a daily basis. And I mean, that is why I liken, when I work with couples, I help them to discover the purpose of their relationship for similar reasons. Because once you have together somebody there with you to help hold the intention, what is it that we're creating together that we couldn't do on our own or that we're not as good at doing on our own? What is it that we're creating in the world? What do we want our relationship to exemplify? Those core values that we share together, that motivates people to get through the challenges. And it sounds like that's what you're saying. Those core values are really the most important thing that you do with people, or one of the most important things that you do first to inspire people in their vision, and that you have these intuitive visionary skills that really help people to flesh out what their mission is.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, like even for me, when the answers were right directly in front of my face, I was like, okay, but how do I put all this together? And what I've found is that we've got, I've just got a little bit of a itchy nose. I'm fighting off laryngitis. It's coming in. So I've been doing a lot of speaking, so I'm all wrapped up here and just trying not to fall to it. What I find with that whole core value thing, Valerie, is once you know what they are for yourself, you now know how to communicate to your partner and what to communicate to your partner. Exactly. So to give you an example, Some of the values that come forward are in the expression. They're in the expression of words that show us how you want to be expressing yourself in the world. So I discovered that the top ways I wanted to express myself in the world were writing and speaking and educating. And at the time in my business, I wasn't doing any of those three. So that's why my business was really struggling. And then when I discovered that, I was able to restructure my business, and all of a sudden things started going well for people. It also helps you figure out whether you actually should be in business or whether you should be in a job or a charity or what have you. But the key here is that once you know what those values are, once you know what those expressions are, you also know how you're going to thrive in your relationship. So I'm a speaker. So thriving in my relationship is going to be really important. There's going to need to be some kind of verbal communication. So I need to have a really good match with my partner, or a partner who understands my need to speak my thoughts. Whereas other people have a need to connect. So their true value might be connecting. And that connection might not be verbal. It might be more subtle. And so you're not only finding what these values are for you and how you're going to go forward in the world, but you're finding those values that help you find that ebb and flow and that really beautiful synergy that you can have, you know, in the way that you relate to your partner. And
yeah, like how to relate to not just, you know, your partner, I imagine also, but everyone in your life from that place that's connected to your core values. And then I imagine then you start vision about, well, if I love speaking and teaching, what do I want to speak and teach about? And that really helps, you know, the snowball go down the hill in the direction of your purpose.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So why is it so important for people to find their life purpose and to monetize it?
Well, I think it's important for two reasons. The first reason is I think we're all aware that we're shifting out of an industrial age and we're going into a relationship integrity, information age, and that requires a whole new set of values. And in the old days, we would go to work to make money. And in the new days, it is all about purpose, because it's purpose-driven waves that are fast replacing what's going on in the industrial world. So to give you an example, last night I was watching the TV, and our big newspapers are downsizing dramatically because of online newspapers like the Huffington Post. Now, Ariana Huffington set that up with a drive, a mission, and a purpose. And now all of those kind of online medias are fast replacing our newspapers. And so media is going more independent, and we're going to be losing the stranglehold that big corporations have. And that's just one area. So because it's purpose-driven waves that are building the new economy, this is where we get to go, well, what is my purpose? Because I need to find my place in the economy. And your purpose will actually help you find where your unique place is as we're transitioning, because as you know, you probably heard 50% of the jobs that are here today will be gone within the next 2 years, but there's also new jobs that have been born out of these purpose-driven ways. So that's the first reason. The second reason, and this has to do with relationships with our family, with our significant other, and people in general, is that we're also shifting our idea about what family is, about what relationship is, about what marriage is. We're undergoing a massive social change, which always happens when you change great ages. Now, in the olden days, the purpose of marriage was to get together and have a family. That is no longer the case, because there are some people that don't want to have a family. So that leaves you with this, well, what is the purpose of the relationship? And if you don't know what your life purpose is, you may be having a false purpose or being under the wing of somebody else's purpose for the relationship, which is not your own. And so therefore the longevity of the relationship is much shorter than what you would hope for. So does that make sense? That, you know, that the marriage...
Yeah, definitely.
The marriage... Good.
Right, because
the marriage between... Sorry, go.
I mean, with traditional roles, you know, people had a sense of purpose just within those roles. And now that we get to have a lot more fluidity and creativity with, you know, I've seen people choosing any kind of role in their relationship. 2 breadwinners, 1 breadwinner, the woman working and the man staying home with the kids, both people creating their life purposes together with or without kids or extended family members, multiple partners, whatever people want to create. And I've seen it many times where people are frustrated with their careers or their jobs. They're coming home exhausted and depleted. And do you think they have anything to give their partner afterwards, first of all? And to if they're not connected to their core values at work, then how can they really be connected to their core values with their partner? And then they usually wind up getting into fights about things because they're stressed out. That's what I see very often when people are not really living their purpose. But then now that the relationship itself, we have the freedom to create whatever purpose that we want in it. So, for example, my partner and I are both aware of our life purpose, and we can support each other in it. We can, I'm supporting him in his, and he's supporting me in mine. And I can bring my skills to the table with him, and he can bring his skills to the table to support me. And it just energizes us, makes us feel more alive that we're creating something together. And that's what I think all couples can have the chance to create, that it's an upward spiral. Once you're inspired, once you wake up inspired about what you're doing, it has, I want to say infectious, but in a good way. We so inspire each other, but you can't do that if you're not connected to what your purpose is. So I definitely think that's one of the first places that people can look if they're not satisfied in their relationship is, well, what is my life purpose? And I also agree that the life purpose can uplift us out of conflict, not just in a relationship, but at work as well. Like, what is it that we're creating together is enough to motivate people out of whatever they're in conflict about, even in the workplace. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people have a bit of a tendency to take things out on their partner, either in very subtle ways or very obvious ways. And if you've had a hard life at work, or you're not really enjoying what you're doing, you tend to look for excitement in other areas of your life to compensate. So this is where your mind could be going towards thoughts of infidelity or thoughts of creating drama in the relationship because you don't have any drama and passion in your life. And when you when you do have passion and you do have excitement and you do have inspiration in your working life, then you've got something inspiring to bring back to the relationship so that it can renew itself and build and build from there. And as you said, enliven is it's a great word. It's like you're enlivening, you're enriching, and you're creating a foundation for your relationship whereby you have passion always coming into the relationship, so that you're not so 100% demanding that passion come from the relationship. Does that make sense? So you're feeding passion into the relationship rather than trying to pull passion out of it, which means passion is always going to be there because it's a cyclical thing. Whereas if there's no passion in your life, you're going to rely really heavy on your partner to be everything for you to compensate, and that's not a good foundation for a happy, long relationship.
Exactly. I think that's really well said. And so I've seen this happen with a lot of women just because it's only been 60 years since women have been encouraged to have fulfilling careers, which is wonderful. That, a lot of times women will look to the relationship to give them fulfillment when they're not fulfilled with what they're doing, what they're creating in the world outside of the relationship, and put a lot of pressure on their male partner to meet their needs, and that occurs as pressure and demanding, and that actually pushes him away, as opposed to really being filled up on a daily basis with what makes you come alive in the world, and using that to inspire yourself and give to the world. And when you're in that inspired energy, it's so magnetic and attractive to your partner that then, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy where, like attracts like, and you're so passionate that then your partner becomes more passionate in your presence.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that swings both sides of the fence. I think the same is true for men. When men aren't passionately involved in something in their life, they either tend to look to their female partner, or the female aspect in their partnership to satisfy their needs, and often that can go down a really dark shadow path of sexuality and even possibly even infidelity. So that it swings both ways.
Yeah.
I think we all need to be impassioned in our life if we want to have a passionate relationship, so that we're not relying 100% on sex to be what passion is for us, because that has a bit of a short fuse.
Right, exactly. So, so if somebody was wanting to find what their life purpose was and monetize them, what would be the first step?
For me, I look at it in terms of synergy, because a lot of people think of life purpose in terms of what job am I going to have, what business am I going to start, and they think of it in a really small context. But life purpose is such a huge topic, and it's very broad, and it includes things like what our life lessons are, what our life challenges are. So I know in my journey, I don't know if we ever can narrow our life purpose down to a sentence that's going to give us clarity. But there are aspects of what makes up our life purpose that we can know in great detail, and that's what's going to give us the greatest sense of purpose and the drive and the passion. And those elements start with how do you express yourself in the world. So if you're expressing yourself, so as somebody who is a clerk in a bank, where your deep values are actually being more active and more physical, you're not going to be happy in that role.
Right.
And if like I tend to work with a lot of people who want to go into coaching and speaking and educating. I get a lot of messengers in my world. And a lot of them will want to express themselves as a coach, and then they'll struggle to build their coaching business because their main expression is speaking and educating. And so they need to redevelop their monetization model based on what their core expressions are that are going to give them expansion, the sense of fulfillment, and I call it mojo, give you that magnetic ability to attract the right things to you. And then knowing the aspect of what you're here to do, part of your purpose. So the expressions I say are, that's what you're here to be in the world, which is, I'm here to be a speaker, an educator, a writer, a transformer, a connector, whatever those core values are. And that forms the foundation of how we build your business or your career model. Then we add to that, well, but what are you actually here to do? Because when you know what you're here to do, when you know what your mission is, when you know who it is you're here to serve and what message you're here to deliver, we now know where to channel those expressions. So if you're a speaker, but what do you speak about? Well, you speak about something that's going to achieve your mission to the people that you're born to serve and prosper with, and the message that you're born to deliver. So it's a synergy of all of those types of elements. And then most importantly, when you're looking at monetizing that, we need to look future forward. Most people look at what's going on in the economy right now and what's available, and how would I monetize myself according to now. But because we're in a transitioning economy, you need to monetize yourself according to where we're moving to and where the growth is. And I can give you a hint, social entrepreneurship and education of entrepreneurs are the big growth industries. That's where so much of the new is being created. Change makers in technology, change makers in education, change makers at a grassroots level with inventions that are going to completely change the way that we are, and then the ripple effect of all of the services that are going to be needed because of those new industries that are being born. And that's where there's no way around it. You need to follow a futurist or a whole bunch of futurists, people like myself, people like Roger Hamilton, who are out there saying, hey, listen, we're seeing these trends, this is where we're moving, so you've got your finger on the pulse of where you're going, so you know how to monetize. Because I still get people who say to me, my passion is jewelry. I think my purpose is to create jewelry. And so they set themselves up in a business selling jewelry, and that doesn't sell, and they don't make any money. And it's like, that's kind of like a really narrow way of looking at what your purpose is, and it will never make you money in a really crowded market around jewelry, unless there's something specific about the jewelry that's different from anything that's in the market because of where we're going. People are thinking more and more about sustainability, recycling, being a little bit more downsized in, what they're doing because they want to pull back on their carbon footprint on the planet. There's a different mood out there in the marketplace. So it's really important to get a handle on what that mood is, where it's going, so that you monetize future forward rather than what we've got available today.
Right. So it sounds like what you're saying is, after you help people connect with their core values, then what is the kind of expression that really comes alive from that place? Who do they really feel called to serve? And then you really help connect that with where the trends are going to get the monetization, because
yes,
all we know is how things are right now, and that you really put a lot of attention on following the trends and helping to merge that with telling people how their passion is likely to make money in the future, towards where the trends are going.
Absolutely. And I have a model where I get, I'm really big on having multiple stream incomes that are all aligned, serving the same niche, so it elevates people up. And that's where you start to see the growth into the future. So there's a lot of things that I'm doing. For instance, I'm working and getting a lot of my, programs, a lot of my peer-to-peer networking on the Ethereum and working with blockchain, which is like the new evolution of the internet. And that's a long-term strategy, because I see that there's going to be quite a bit of migration over into that platform. But I'm already preparing for that. The other thing that I'm seeing happening is that there is peer-to-peer education is going to become more prevalent. We already have the availability for people to log online and get a Harvard University education from anywhere in the world, because tutors and students are putting all of their stuff up on the internet and the cloud, and people can access that. Now, they don't get the qualification from having gone to Harvard University, but they're getting the quality of education from Harvard or Cambridge, the big Ivy League universities. So there's more of that going on, particularly in Africa and India and China. And these are really big populations. I mean, 1 in 7 people are Indian, 1 in 7 people are Chinese. So that leaves 5 of us for the rest of the cultures around the world. They are rocketing out at great speeds, the free internet and solar power grids, so that they will then have a free, sustainable energy of a source of energy, which means even more ability to set up things like solar-powered schools that are online. So children out in the desert are getting educated by people in America. They're getting educated by people in Europe. And we're raising up the bottom by allowing them to have the first-class education that we're offering. And it's peer-to-peer. I mean, Skype have got the simultaneous translation. So I can be speaking to somebody in my language.
Wow.
Yeah, they can hear it in their language, speak to me in their language, and I can hear it in my language. So this is getting rolled out in some schools. So there are school children in America, in Australia, in Europe that are educating school children in South America and India and China and Africa. So these so-called third world or developing nations are now getting peer-to-peer education. And a lot of the reason for that is happening just because we have access to be able to do that. Social media has put us in contact with each other, and we want to help each other. And one of the biggest reasons is because our universities, our TAFEs and our technical colleges aren't preparing people for the future. They're still in an industrial model and mindset. So why go into huge student debt to get an education that's preparing you for an industry that isn't going to exist once you get out, and now you've got all this debt? So as that sinks in and that filters in, my girlfriend said she's not sending her kids to university for that reason. she's going to send them to a social entrepreneur school, which is a private school that's peer-to-peer. So people like myself, other entrepreneurs go in and teach. So there's huge, massive social change across the board happening. And those are the areas that are thriving and growing. And I think it's really exciting myself personally, because I love the world that it's going to create as a result. And I found that everybody that's alive today has a part to play in transitioning us into that golden age.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's your higher purpose.
Right, and that's why you get so many people that want to be educators and teachers and coaches.
Yes.
They're, and for all those coaches out there that say, well, there's so many coaches, where are all the clients? I mean, there's how many billions of people in the world that now are getting greater and greater access to the internet and to platforms where they can receive the education peer-to-peer, like you're saying. So if people feel like they have a message that they want to get out there and teach, that means that there's an audience to receive it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the majority of my clients come from America and Europe. And a lot of that is not just because they want to get closer to Hugh Jackman. Like if I have a coach in Australia, I'm like, I get to meet Hugh Jackman someday. It's not because of that. It's just because I'm global, and I give a global perspective, because that's where you need to monetize, because we are global, and we're going even more global. So no more be-arching and moaning, if I can say that, about jobs going offshore into other countries. I mean, the good news about that is that frees you up to actually do something that you're more passionate about, and maybe educate these other countries with the amazing skills that you've learned. So instead of gripping onto the past and gripping onto the old, embracing it is going to mean that you're so much more fulfilled, and that you've got a bigger audience. And I've got a client in the Sudan. I've got a client in Nigeria. I'm about to open up in South Africa. I've got clients in Southeast Asia, in Hong Kong. And I love that globalness, because if my local economy is having problems, it doesn't affect my business. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if America crashes, that doesn't affect my business. If Europe goes through a dip, doesn't affect me, because I'm always going into where the growth areas are. And that's kind of the mindset that we need to be happening. And I think the bigger picture on that, like if we talk about the bigger picture or the bigger purpose of that, is that it's bringing us all closer together, so that all of the walls that we've had up against each other, and the fear that we've had, and the cultural bias that we've had, it's going to have to disappear as a matter of necessity. And the more we meet people from other walks of life, the more we understand that we're actually really quite similar. And ultimately, because my big mission is to create peace on earth, ultimately that's going to lead us to not wanting to fight each other.
I love that mission, and I think that I imagine that the people that are watching us share it, and I feel really inspired when I hear you say that.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what would you say to people that feel like they have a higher calling, but they're too scared to look at what that actually means for their current situation and their family? Like, what about the people saying, okay, I love this idea of teaching to people on an online platform across the world, but how is that going to put food on the table while I transition? I don't have time for that. What do you say to people with those concerns?
Yeah, then that's a really awesome question to be answering, especially, if you have a family and you're in a relationship. The number one reason why people don't take the time out to find out what that higher purpose is and answer that calling is because they fear a loss of money. They go, well, I won't be able to make as much money as that, or I won't be able to transition without it having a financial repercussion in the family budget. And I've never found that to be true. Like, the way I work, like I have that 7, multiple stream income model. The way I work with people is that when I help them find out what that is, I help them see that your spirit, your soul already has a transition plan in play, so that it's not stretched. and you can transition quite easily for most people. And sometimes you're already actually in the process of transitioning, but you just need these pieces of information and this approach to actually bring the money in faster, so the transition is a lot easier to make. So to give you an example, I have a client who was a six-figure earner. She was earning 250 grand in a job as a trainer, wanting to transition out of a job and into a business where she was training. And she works with corporate culture change. Now, that's a big drop to go from out on your own with no clients to, having such a big income. So we looked at a transition strategy for her to go, okay, great. So we put the change out in the future timeline, working on this, and this to get you there. And at this point, that's when you make the leap. But what happened was she started talking to clients and people in her industry about where she was going. And this is the key to answering your question. You actually start talking to key people about where you're going. Like, you put your indicators on. Hey, I think in about 2 meters, I'm going to be taking a left or a right-hand turn. And she all of a sudden found somebody who had their hands on a $250,000 budget for training in the exact same thing she was moving into. And because they had already had a relationship within the corporation that she was working in, she was the person that they wanted to work with. So she has a contract for a year with that, and that's probably going to get renewed. So she's not even out of the gate, and she's got a $250,000 contract. Now, not everybody's going to have big results like that, but everybody that I've seen, without question, already has the resources in their field at the time that the call is made for the higher purpose to actually have a transition whereby they can have that happen. It's just a matter of putting certain elements in place first before you leap, because I don't adhere to jumping off a cliff without a parachute on. You're going to get that parachute on first.
Right. And I imagine that part of that is enrolling your partner in what your purpose is that inspires them. Because I know that that's what happened in my relationship. Once I really enrolled my partner in my purpose for how I wanted to serve my clients and what I was excited about, then he stepped in and started supporting me on a deeper level because he believed in me. And I imagine that a lot of people have a lot of drive and passion for something that, for whatever reason, time or different obligations pulling at us, that we don't really get to connect, a lot of us, with our partner about what's most deeply important to us. And once you do that, then resources can crawl out of the woodworks.
Absolutely. And also, I think it's really important that if you're turning your indicators on to say, hey, I think I'm going to be going in a bit of a different direction with my life, that you also throw it back to them and say, where are you at? Like, are you happy in the job that you're in? Do you feel like you've got a higher purpose? Do you want to take this journey with me? We may not be doing the same thing, but at least, do you want to do this course with me? Do you want to do this process with me? Do you want to sit down and have this conversation with me? Do you want to take this journey with me? Because I would love to take it with you, because I think it's going to bring more passion into the relationship. I think our sex life is going to improve because of it, because it's going to connect us on a deeper level, and I would really love that. Do you want to come along?
Exactly. And to recognize that if they don't, then it's just because they have concerns. And that's one of the things that I teach about, how to really hold space for each other's emotions and concerns and give each other reassurance. And at the same time, really be coming together as a team to say, how can we support each other? How can we get both of our concerns addressed, both of our needs met? Because I agree that when you are really passionate about something and you've identified your core values, that it's because there is support out there. If you're really meant to help people in the way that you're called to help people, that the support is out there. And if two people put their heads together in order to find out where that is, then that's so much better than one person feeling like they're doing it on their own.
Absolutely. And I think that this is a message mostly for women, because the modern woman tends to get on a man and ride him with a whip. Come on, grow, evolve, change. and that is to recognize that everybody has their soul journey and they have their own timeline, and that if they don't want to take that journey with you, it's okay. But again, have that conversation with, okay, so this is the journey I'm taking. How can I support you with, where you want to be going and what you want to be doing? So don't write them so hard. Allow them to have
right,
a conversation
exactly.
period.
Well, that, and I mean, I found that there's a lot of people that say, oh, my partner isn't as evolved as me or whatever. But part of the evolving process is to be able to really see the ways that your partner is evolved and to not want them to change. Because if you want them to change, it's just taking energy away from how you can be nurturing your own sense of purpose and passion. Because when you're really focusing on what makes you come alive and not trying to change your partner, but really turning that energy into what really makes me come alive, how do I feel called to serve in the world? And how can I inspire my partner from that place? And stop trying to change the other person, then they usually get on board and say, wow, I want to support you because you're so passionate and alive.
I have found that in 100% of the cases. You know, I've had women particularly complain about their husbands not being supported. And when I've said, well, hang on a second, just go back and have this conversation with them. Use these words, have these kind of open-ended statements. And then what happens is all of a sudden that they come back and they go, wow, they're really supportive and they're really excited about my purpose. And we've decided that we're going to get me up and running. And as soon as I'm up and running, then he's going to have the time to be able to go on his journey and do what he's doing and get relieved from, you know, having to be the maid breadwinner. And I see that a lot. And I often say this for men. So for men that are listening, this is your time. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on out there that's going, oh, this is women's time. You know, we're empowering women, and it's women, women, women. It's the rise of the feminine and feminine leadership, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, that's only one half of the equation, because the other half of the equation is that it's a male liberation time right now. Men are being liberated from having to be the main breadwinner. So now you can go, well, great, it's not such a huge burden for me to bring in all the money into the relationship and into the family. So that frees me up to start thinking about what my passion is and what I would really like to be doing. You know, that's kind of like the male liberation, is liberating them out of doing jobs just to bring money in, to being able to go into jobs or businesses and roles where they're really passionate about it and earning the same money, even more money in some cases, in something that's really driving them.
I love that. I love the way you put that, male liberation. And it's true, because for most of history, men felt that sense of obligation. Like, they couldn't question what's my purpose. They have to question how to support my family. And now that, you know, for a lot of men, that burden is lessened. Now there is this opportunity for both partners to really say, wow, what are we creating together? How can we support each other in our purpose in the world? And that's so beautifully said. And so I wonder, and I invite anyone who's watching to type questions into the chat box too. People probably have questions for you, so feel free. I'm just wondering, what are the different ways that you can support people? If people are like, yes, I'm really inspired, I want to see how I can learn from Nicola.
Sure. Well, I have a free gift, and you're going to have a link below this video for people to go to get the free gift. And what it is it's a video series, a multimedia series that outlines my entire formula for how to clarify and monetize your purpose and mission in the world, and what you need to be looking for, what you need to be putting in place that's going to allow you to make that financial transition out of whatever it is you're doing now into what you're doing. If you already feel like you're on purpose, but you're not getting the results you want, it's also going to give you the checklist for what you have, what's missing in the piece of the puzzle, and how to put it all together so it's running really smoothly. That's the beauty about it. I love my model. So you can click the link below to get that, and I think that's the best place to start. And then once you get into that system, you're going to get a few emails with some videos that I've made and some training videos, and then also there'll be an opportunity for you to, you know, just email me if you've got any questions and have a strategy session with me. You get into that system, you'll get an invitation if you're wanting to have a strategy session with me as well.
Well, that's great. Tell me more about these training videos. What exactly are people going to learn if they click the link, and they're free, so there's nothing to lose?
That's true. They're going to learn, first of all, my 5-step formula to get clear. what is it that I need to take care of in order to get the clarity that I'm looking for? What are those 5 steps? They're going to learn what are the keys to monetizing, so that you can make more money by making a bigger difference, and you can therefore, make a transition if you're actually in a transition zone. They're also going to learn the keys to why you might actually not be wanting to have this marriage between mission and purpose and money, and that has to do with this thing called split brain hemisphere syndrome. I have a whole video just on how the hemispheres of our brain, if you've seen a physical brain, there are walls between the left and the right hemisphere. Money's in one hemisphere in our thinking, and purpose, spirituality, love and passion are in the other hemisphere. So if there are walls between the brain and all that thinking's going on in different hemispheres of the brain and they're not communicating, how do you get the communication? Like, what happens to be able to bridge that so that you can absolutely feel and believe and know that you can make more money by, creating a difference in the world? And to give you an example, like, I am a double 6-figure earner and I'm heading really fast to my million. I've just hired a marketing company that's going to take me to $1 million within the next financial year. And our sales targets are being met, so I can be very confident in that. And I'm an activist. I'm an activist. That's essentially what I am. I work with people who want to transform the world, who want to help other people raise themselves up out of poverty, or help them raise themselves up out of some kind of emotional trauma, or people who are working in corporations that want to shift the culture. Most of them are change makers, educators, coaches. I do have some innovators in my team as well. And what they do has a ripple effect that's going to change the world. So I'm active in so many areas of change in the world, but I'm not out there volunteering myself and running myself ragged, actually trying to make all of those projects happening. I'm just empowering people to go out there and do it on my behalf. So I've got this army of global change makers, and essentially being active and activism and changing our world. So if it's possible for me to monetize my activism, it's possible for you to be on purpose and monetize your mission and monetize your passion and make it happen as well. And the free gift that I'm offering you actually shows you the steps on how to get started with that.
That's so wonderful, and we will be posting the link to that free gift, those free videos, underneath this video. And for those who are watching live, we'll send that in an email later. I'm excited to see it myself. Well, I don't see that anyone else has questions. Is there a final message that you want to impart our audience with?
Yeah, because we're talking about relationships and improving relationships with purpose, I really encourage anybody that's watching this to go directly to your partner and start having the conversation about taking that journey of helping each other find out what they're really here to do and how they're really here to contribute to the planet, and take the journey together. And obviously, if your partner doesn't want to take that journey, you just let it germinate, because we are at a time on the planet where just about everybody I know of is telling me they feel they've got something else that they're here to do. They feel that they've got a higher calling. I just don't meet people that don't feel that sense of purpose right now, because that's the time we're in. So have confidence that you can have that conversation, because just about everybody I speak to across the world is having that sense that there's something else that they're here to do. And just open the conversation up, start the conversation.
Right, exactly. And some people might be scared that their partner will feel pressured by that because they don't want to talk about it. And in that case, it's important that you just inspire them, right? So to really do the work to figure out what your mission is, what your purpose is, and to be inspired by that and share that with your partner. Because that's not threatening to just share, you don't have to say, I'm going to quit my job and do this. You just have to say, well, here's what I'm passionate about. This is what I'm passionate about creating in the world. This is how I want to express it. I have this vision. If they have concerns, it's just their fears, reassure their fears. And then say, I would love to speak about how we can do this together.
Yeah. Or if you don't know what you're passionate about, I want to take the journey to find out what I'm passionate about.
Exactly. And not to put pressure on them that they need to be similarly inspired, but just you being in your purpose and passion on a daily basis is going to inspire them.
It does, yeah.
Wonderful. And I do want to say one thing, that if people felt scared about expressing their purpose to your partner, then maybe there is a communication breakdown, which happens with a lot of couples that find themselves in conflict or that they feel distant. And if you do feel that way, then I offer a webinar on how to go from feeling distant and in conflict to feeling fulfilled enough to have that kind of conversation about what we're creating together. And it's called From Fighting to Fulfillment. And you can learn more about that on my website, which is coachvaleriegreene.com/stop fighting. And I'll send that to people as well, because it's so important to be able to have those lines of open communication with your partner, like we said, because that's really two people coming together to support each other in your purpose. There's nothing more important than that in relationships, I think. And the relationship really starts to go stagnant if you're not supporting each other in your purpose. Like you said, you expect to get the passion from your relationship only and not what you're doing outside of your life. So if you're stuck in conflict, then definitely check out my webinar for how to stop getting stuck in conflict, which is Coach Valerie Greene, Stop Fighting. And just to be able to connect to what your purpose is so important to stop fighting as well. So I think that together we have such a amazing combination of tools to be able to join forces with your partner and create your mission out in the world.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's really important and really important to resolve conflict instead of to let it fester, because you probably teach this, Valerie. It affects your health. It's like when you're depressed or when you're unhappy or when you're feeling and you're feeling beaten down by conflict in the relationship, that affects your health. It affects your heart. It affects your colon. It
affects your blood pressure. It your cortisol, your stress hormones go up. It affects your immunity.
Yeah,
for sure. They're doing a lot.
Which means it
nowadays on. And drains your energy from living your purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we've got a great dovetail there, haven't we?
Exactly. And we have all these free resources to share. My webinar is free and your video training is free. So wherever you're at, and either connecting to your purpose so that you can have an inspiring conversation, or stopping fighting so that you can focus on what your purpose is, there is a myriad of tools out there. And I'm just so inspired by what you're doing to empower social entrepreneurs, because everybody's got a message. My message
Absolutely.
is to help people to create harmony in their relationships. And there's so many teachers about that, and we each have a different way of articulating it that'll speak to someone different. And now there's no limit to how many people in the world we can reach.
Absolutely, and that's the key. There's no limit.
So wonderful. So I encourage people to click the link below this video to watch Nicola's. I want to keep calling you Nicola, I'm sorry. To watch Nicola's video training series and learn those 5 keys to monetizing your mission.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Valerie, and thank you everybody for listening. And those of you who are in the future listening to the replay on this, I look forward to being able to help serve you, and I'm sure Valerie feels the same way too.
Definitely. I look forward to connecting with everyone who's watching this. Do you want to share your email now, how to get in touch with you, or just
sure. That's actually all in the links. If they go to the free offer, that is my personal email that they get the offer from, so they can just hit the reply button and contact me.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Valerie. It's been great. Awesome talk.
Definitely, you're so articulate, and I am leaving feeling really inspired to go out there and serve more people with my mission. So
beautiful.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Bye.
All right, bye.